We're going to be talking today about searches of cars. There are a lot of different legal theories under the Fourth Amendment, the part of the Constitution that prohibits unreasonable searches and seizures. So there are a lot of different theories that police and prosecutors and defense attorneys talk about as they're asking, can the police search for evidence of a crime in a car? So let's go talk about car searches. Okay folks, let's get started. We're going to be talking about searches of cars. There are some special Fourth Amendment search and seizure rules when it comes to cars. We're focusing on the search rules, not the seizure rules. So there are separate rules for when can you stop a car. You need some kind of reasonable suspicion to believe that the driver has violated some criminal law or traffic law. But we're not talking about the stops. We're talking about the searches. Once the car is stopped, can an officer look inside the car to try to find evidence of some kind of crime happening? In this setting, there are lots of different theories that the government can use. We're going to talk briefly about four of them, just a quick overview of four theories. But the big, idea here, your rule of thumb is government's probably going to win because they've got a lot of different ways of explaining, ways of justifying the police officer searching inside the car. Lots of different theories, therefore lots of different ways to win. Government's probably going to win. We'll walk through the four different theories. First of all, here's theory number one. This is called the Carroll theory, or the automobile exception to the warrant requirement. So this was established in a case called Carroll versus United States in 1925. Like a lot of 1920s cases, this dealt with prohibition of alcohol, and the federal agents and state agents were out looking for illegal transportation and sale of alcohol. And so they stopped a car and were looking inside the car for alcohol, but they had no warrant. And at that point, it was not clear whether you needed not only probable cause to believe that alcohol was in the car. This is not just a fishing expedition, but you have some reason to think this car will have alcohol in it. But not only, in some settings, the question is, you not only need probable cause, but you need to go to a judge ahead of time and convince the judge and get the judge to give you a warrant, and then you can search. And the court's answer in Carroll versus United States was, no, if it's a car, we're just going to give up on the whole warrant thing. We're not going to make you go get a judicial pre-approval of your probable cause. And the court had a few reasons for that, but one of them was, cars are just easy to move. And so, if you were going to a house and you thought there was evidence in the house isn't going anywhere. So you have time to go to the judge and get the warrant and then come back to the house and get your evidence. But for the car, cars can move. It's easy, maybe you see it there now, but you turn around 3 minutes later, it's gone. Or maybe even 30 seconds later, it's gone. So the idea of cars being movable influenced the court here. And also the court had some passages indicating that cars are sort of in a more public place than being in your home. That is, we think of ourselves as being out in public when we're in our cars on the roads. And so you give up more of your privacy if you've chosen to go out in that part of the world. So at any rate, the court says no warrants required in a car. They've reaffirmed that idea several times over the years, including Chambers versus Maroney in 1970.
What's that?
I don't mind if you videotape me, but you're a little close to our scene. Can you back up at least to that lot over there?
Sorry, but the Circuit Court of Appeals said that I'm at a reasonable distance.
Well, reasonable to who?
The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals.
But it makes me nervous. You can, just back by the grass, I'd be more than happy. My name is Officer Aggressive, and I'm not trying to be a pain with you, sir. I've dealt with you before.
Right.
I'm just asking you if you could just please back up to the grass. You got plenty of cameras. Honestly, if you could just help me out, I'd appreciate it very much.
You have nothing to fear, and I could understand if it was somebody else, but you know exactly who I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
just trying to have a communication with us that is friendly and.
I appreciate your service, and we have no issues. I got no problem with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
There was no case previous to Turner v. Driver that encompass the specific factual scenario in Turner v. Driver, such that it was clearly established to Officer Grinalds and Officer Dias of the Fort Worth Police Department that they were violating Mr. Turner's First Amendment rights. And so Mr. Turner is not going to be able to get any damages based on his First Amendment claim. What Mr. Turner has done, though, is ensure that everyone who comes after him, everyone who comes after this decision of February 16, 2017 in the Fifth Circuit will be able to get damages if they are treated in the same way as Mr. Turner was treated on September 2015. And as unfair as that seems, that's the way qualified immunity works. And at least in this case, the court just didn't say, well, Mr. Turner, the right wasn't clearly established at the time, so you lose on your First Amendment claim, and then they don't clarify it. We've had cases where that has happened in this office here in Connecticut, where a court will say, well, the right wasn't clearly established at the time, it still isn't clearly established, and you know what, we're not going to address the issue to make it clearly established now going into the future. So the Fifth Circuit did their job, clearly established that right to record police activity, and so anybody that comes in the future and faces the same situation Mr. Turner faces will benefit from what Mr. Turner did.
Thank you,
even though
Officer
Mr. Turner will not receive damages for what he went through in terms of his rights being, his First Amendment right being violated.